Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 23 of the Apter Chat. This is Bill Apter, and along with my co-host, Josh Shernoff, we would like to welcome you once again. Josh, you did a great solo drive last week.
Oh, thank you, and welcome back, Bill. I think everybody missed you, and it's good to have you back here.
Were you lonely without me?
I was a little lonely.
I was going to send one of the Apter Chat cheerleaders to your studio last week, but she called in at the last minute that she had something else that had just transpired in her life, and I think it was something like she and her mother were busy making Jell-O, so they didn't really have. She had to pull out. Great excuse, right?
You know what? I have no response to that whatsoever. Man, I will say though, thank you for the thought.
It was a really good show. I really enjoyed it. I do
Thanks.
when I'm not around. I do like your outspoken sarcasm a lot
But
more
as
than when
long,
I am around.
I was going to say, as long as you're not there to share in any of the heat. No, it was, you know what? It was a lot of fun, but you can't have the Apter Chat without Bill Apter, and it's good to have you back. And it's good, you know. I was just basically talking the whole time. I didn't have anybody to go back and forth with, so I didn't have anybody to interrupt me, right?
Well, you consider it. You know what I want to bring this up. You consider
Please.
it interruption, but it's not interruption. It's headbutting.
Okay. Well, I consider
That's
it
what
interrupting. And if anybody else considers it interrupting and wants to support me, you can go over to sosaysshernoff.com and you can get the Josh Interrupted shirt, which is off of the Girl Interrupted logo, and a very, very different story to that movie than what we've got going on. But it's all fun and games, so people, come on, let's not take things too seriously.
Well, wait a minute. Of course not. And also, don't forget to go to the apterchat.com where you can take advantage of getting,
Is this about that cheerleader again?
The cheerleader, yes, we should put a picture on there. You don't even know what she looks like.
That's okay.
However, people can get our series of Apter Chat T-shirts.
Absolutely. Is Wrestling Fixed?
I didn't know it was broken, but that's not our best-selling one.
No, but I was going to say it was based off of your book of the same title. But no, our best-selling is Respect the Comb Over. You have to get that. And of course, we also have the man. We went right into trying to push these shirts today. And why not? They're great shirts.
Yeah, well, you started with that that initial plug.
Yeah.
For your stuff there.
You know what? I'm trying to sell my shirts, your book. It's what I'm here for. I'm here to push the merch.
Well, you're doing, and I love that word.
I know you do.
I love that word, as you know. So as we're talking here, I'm just getting a phone call from my son Brandon, and I'm now texting him and saying, "Taping podcast. Talk to you later." So hopefully,
hey, Brandon.
What's that?
Just shout out to Brandon when he's listening to this.
Of course, yeah. Definitely. Hey, Brandon.
Good guy.
Okay, he's been shouted out. Anyway, it's been while I was on the road, of course, my presence was felt with the interview of the late Bobby Shane. I got a lot of really good feedback on that, and one of the things that happened while I was away, as well, was the untimely and so sad death of my dear friend Mean Gene Okerlund.
Yeah, that I touched base on it last week and said that I would be sure to discuss that with you when you return because he is a longtime dear friend of yours. And Bill, is there any stories anything that you can talk about Mean Gene that you experienced with him? Any personal stories between the two of you?
Yeah, back in the 70s, I can't put my finger on a year, but when I traveled regularly to Vern Gagne's AWA, they were kind enough to put me on their TV program several times. and I was interviewed first by Marty O'Neill, who was one of their broadcasters, and eventually by Gene Okerlund. And I knew when he was interviewing me, just from the shtick that we were doing backstage, just being silly with each other, that this guy was going to be something really special in wrestling broadcasting because he had before anyone knew what sports entertainment was, he had a sense of entertainment in him, and yet he was a legit broadcast. And
What a
as
voice too.
oh, great voice! You know the highs and the lows that he had. You know he could sell any storyline, any angle. He could have sold anything to anybody. But he had the highs, he had the lows. He was very he was not monotone. He kept you interested. And I remember the few times I met him at AWA after the initial time and all. We'd go out and grab some food, whatever, and just talk about wrestling. He really was a fan back then, even though he knew nothing about wrestling. I think he was kind of picking my brain about the wrestling business. When
Sure.
he went to WWE, of course, his interviews with Hulk Hogan, who did a great tribute on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, we'll talk about
He
that in a
was,
minute.
yeah, he there was no one else who could have done it like him. Um, and back at WWE and WCW, especially in WCW, where I was backstage a lot, I maintained a very close relationship with him. And anytime he would see me, once in a while, as I'd come over to say, "Hey, Gene, can I ask you?" "No, no, because then you'll tell everybody, and you'll get us all in trouble." And then he'd walk away. But he was doing shtick. He was
No.
he was being nice. The last few years, he's been a guest at a lot of the wrestling conventions that I've had the pleasure to be part of, and I've interviewed him many times at the wrestling conventions. And the last time I saw him was probably at the Icons of Wrestling convention in Philadelphia that RF Video runs
Yeah.
at the 2300 Arena. And I spoke with him probably 2 months ago. Uh, and he sounded great. He sounded very chipper. And we were set to book him on our show, weren't we, Josh?
Yeah, we had talked about. You had spoken with him about coming on the show to give some predictions for Survivor Series, and schedule-wise, we just weren't able to work it out. And I know you and I had talked about, well, we'll bring him back for the next big pay-per-view,
Of course.
which would be the Royal Rumble. And obviously, unfortunately, that's not going to happen. I was talking with my wife when we were watching the tribute video that the WWE put out, which was, like you mentioned, I mean, it was phenomenal. And she had even, I mentioned that we were supposed to do that, and she said, "Yeah, I remember because you were really excited about the idea that you could get an opportunity to interview Mean Gene Okerlund." And I
Yes.
remembered, yeah, I was pretty. When we were talking about that, that was something that was really, really exciting, a prospect to be able to do, and kind of crazy to me. And that's definitely a regret that I'm going to have, that I wasn't able to do that. But more importantly, that I wasn't able to ever have the opportunity to meet him, because I've heard nothing but incredible things about him, and I was a huge fan.
What I loved about him also was and you're Mr. Sarcasm, he had a great sarcastic sense of humor. He really
Yes.
did. And I loved his line at the Hall of Fame when he said that when he dies, he wants to be buried upside down so all his critics can kiss his ass.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
You
And
know,
go ahead, go
oh no, I
ahead.
was gonna say, when we were watching that video, I was about to, as it was like coming to an end, I was about to tell my wife about that, because I'd seen the videos pop up online showing that quote and everything, and I just assumed the WWE wasn't going to put it in the video. And when they put it at the end of the video, I just thought that was fantastic. That was just, because what a great example of who he was. That video was just, I was blown away by it. It was really great.
Now I'm going to tell you something that leads to another topic for a moment, and then we have to come back to this.
Okay.
When they were showing all the things about Mean Gene and they had the original Hall of Fame logo, do you remember that wrestling ring that I sent you a picture of?
I do
That
remember.
Okay, so that sticker from the original Hall of Fame was adhered to that wrestling ring by me. Obviously, it
Do
did
you
not come with that wrestling ring.
do you know that for a fact?
That's the sticker that I got at that Hall of Fame.
So you were
Yes.
just given a sticker that happened to perfectly fit.
No, I put it on there. There was the WWF logo on that ring. I
Yes,
put this over that because I didn't know what to do with the
but
sticker.
the sticker was a perfect shape to fit into that
I know.
WW.
That's why I put it there. That's why I put it there because I didn't want to lose it.
But
Now,
don't
for
you
you
think that's kind
fans,
of interesting though that they would print a sticker to be the exact dimensions of the sticker that came with the ring?
no, they didn't give me the ring. I don't know where I got the ring
No,
from. It wasn't
even
from them.
even more so. Isn't that even stranger?
Not really. You want to clue people in real quickly on what we're talking about?
All right, so there was. I'm a big fan. I talked about it last week. I'm a big fan of Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins' podcast, Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, and Bill has in Apter's Alley. He has one of the original Hasbro WWF rings, that blue ring. From anybody that grew up around that time, if you had a wrestling figure, I'm sure you had this ring. But the difference with Bill's ring is that instead of the WWF logo sticker in the middle, it is a Hall of Fame sticker. And that fits perfectly in there. And I had
Yeah.
asked Bill one of the times I was down Apter's Alley, I said, where did this come from? And Bill had told me that he wasn't entirely sure, but he thinks it was given to him at at one of the Hall of Fames.
It was in the press. It was in the press kit, actually.
Yes. So I asked him, "Are you talking about the ring or the whole thing?" And Bill wasn't sure. He couldn't really
Right.
remember.
Right.
So we put out on our social media, "Hey, here's this, this ring. Basically, has anyone ever seen this thing before? This is kind of a, random thing that Bill thinks may have been given to him at the Hall of Fame thing." So I ended up talking to Zack Ryder about it, and we had a little back and forth where he was saying it's got to be like a custom thing because he's never heard of that. And this past week on the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, Zach brought that up as just kind of oh yeah, well, Bill Apter one time had sent me this ring, and I think that was, and Kurt Hawkins said, yeah, but I think that's but Bill wouldn't really know too much about customs or anything. So that was the conversation. It was very nice of them to mention Bill on the on their show. It was not said in any derogatory way.
Right.
But that's
But
where the
when I
confusion. So Bill wanted to, if I'm correct here, Bill, you wanted to kind of set the record straight that you are fairly certain that this sticker was given to you at the Hall of Fame thing,
Yeah,
and that
and it
you,
was in the press kit. It
yes,
was
and
in the
then you
press
put
kit
the sticker on the ring.
on that. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And I didn't remember it until I saw, heading back now, till I saw that Hall of Fame logo on one of the Mean Gene tributes.
hmm
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, so basically, what have we found out today? Bill Apter is a closeted customizer of wrestling figure rings.
Yeah.
So,
But
and
getting
he
back
didn't
to
even know. Yeah.
I didn't know that. But getting back to Mean Gene Okerlund, he was one of a kind, like Gordon Soley was.
hmm
He's was one of a kind, like Jr. These are people who will not be able to be replaced. They are specific voices in
Absolutely.
the timeline of our life. Like when I was growing up, even though he wasn't a wrestling broadcaster, Howard Cosell's
hmm
voice with boxing and other sports, I can hear his voice. Bill Cardell, the wrestling announcer, growing up on the WWF shows, I can hear his voice. Mean Gene Okerlund's voice will never be forgotten.
Not at all. And Bill, we had talked about this earlier, that we'd like to dedicate this show to the memory of Mean Gene Okerlund. Yeah, I have nothing else to add. I think you said it best, that he'll never be forgotten. His voice, especially, will
Oh.
never be forgotten. So,
And I
um,
couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to hear Hogan go, "Well, you know something, Mean Gene."
yeah. So
Couldn't
let's
wait
talk
for
for
that.
a minute if we can. We'll shift gears. Hulk Hogan. This was his return to Monday Night Raw. This was a big deal. A lot of people are saying you can't judge, um, this week's ratings based on the fact that Hulk Hogan was back, that Brock Lesnar was there. This was a very, John Cena, this was a stacked show, but I think, a lot of people wanted to see Hulk Hogan pay respects to Mean Gene. So it's tough to kind of judge, but ratings were up a little bit. Hulk Hogan, look, he's a lot of people are still having issues with him being back. And like we've said from the beginning, it's not our place to tell people how to feel. You and I are obviously not the appropriate people to be deciding whether or not the things that had happened are okay. But regardless, just looking as a wrestling fan, looking at Hulk Hogan, the character, Bill, how did you feel with that music playing and watching him come out?
I got the goosebumps. I use that word a lot, but as soon as I heard "I am a real American," it was something that had to happen. It was something there. Again, there was no one who could have, no wrestler who was alive had that kind of relationship with Mean Gene than Hogan did. And I knew for a fact that anytime I talked to Mean Gene, like once every other month or whatever, he always says, "I've got to go out and meet the Hulkster." By the way, I have a phone message from Mean Gene on my phone that he left me a while ago, which is one of my favorite messages. And if I can find it while we're talking here on the show, I really wouldn't mind playing it.
Okay.
Because no one else has got this. Okay, hold on.
Next message. Oh, after up morning, Gene Okerlund. Giving you a call 10 after 9, and I'm on standby for a 7 o'clock call tonight. Anything is fair game, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so that's
just the energy, even in a phone message.
Yeah, but that was from when Nick Houseman and I did the Is Wrestling Fixed podcast, and he was going to guest with us. That was the message, and I kept it. I kept a lot of those messages. Were you able to hear it okay?
Very well. Very well.
Right. So you Apter Chatters, please tweet out that's on this show, because that's something that you won't hear from anyone. That's a message he left for me, and I will never. That's one I'll never erase.
So I was mentioning before that all those people that had passed, that was my childhood, but your peers, and
well said. Very well said.
Thank you. It's it's just tough. It's really tough to look at that, and I'm sure for you it's just another really difficult situation. And but I think at this point, we should maybe let's move on to something.
Alexis Smirnoff.
Okay, I was trying to move on to something a little lighter, but yes, we also. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's another professional wrestler who passed away. Yeah, just it's unfortunate when that happens.
It's a bad start to 2019.
Yeah, it was certainly not the start that we wanted. But let's talk a little bit about a start to 2019 in a completely different way. There's really no good way to transition out of that. So I'm just going to
explosive start.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead with it. An explosive start for some might even say it was a Tuesday night Dynamite. You see what I did there?
Actually, Tuesday late afternoon.
All right. Well, last time I checked, I don't think All Elite Wrestling has tried to apply for the trademark of Tuesday late afternoon Dynamite, but they have applied for the trademark of Tuesday night Dynamite, and they've done a lot more since that announcement had first come out. So, Bill, let's talk a little bit about AEW, All Elite Wrestling. It's a thing. It's real. It's no longer just a rumor. It's no longer a dream. This is legit. This is a real, legitimate professional wrestling company that is it's coming into existence, and it is backed by multi-billionaires.
Boku bucks.
This is something that we have not experienced since Ted Turner took over WCW.
The
And
difference, though, here
yes,
is that Turner actually had cable television at that point. These people don't yet. They're not on TV,
if
but the power of streaming, what they did for
mhm.
All In early
if
last year.
if we have
Wow.
learned anything from that press conference and some of the people, and we'll talk in a minute about who showed up there and who's a part of things, it's that just because it hasn't been announced doesn't mean it's not being taken care of. And we talked about this, a couple months ago, that when you're talking about the owners of the Jacksonville Jaguars, a major, major, major franchise, not to mention all of the other projects that the Khans have been a part of. I don't think distribution of this is A, going to be difficult for them to obtain, and B, I have a very hard time believing that they don't already know exactly what they're going to do, because
I agree.
can't. Yeah, it's people.
I agree.
They are successful on a level that few are, and I think that all their T's are crossed and lowercase J's are dotted. If anybody gets that reference.
Well, let's say this is a very positive con job.
Do we have to?
Yeah, I did already.
All right. So, All Elite Wrestling, they kick things off with their press conference. And Bill, you have some notes. I have some notes. You want to go over some of the highlights? What were some of the highlights for you?
Well, I'm going to go over my notes that I spoke about on my live after chat on onewrestling.com.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I need to compliment Conrad Thompson and Brian Alvarez. They were both really good, but Conrad is so laid back and easygoing, and the words just kind of flow out of his mouth. He's an excellent fit for whatever they're going to do with him. If they're going to have him involved as a broadcaster, as the Mean Gene Okerlund backstage interviewer, I think he's an excellent fit for this.
I don't see him being a part of this in that way, because I think he's too big of a deal. Also, he's too big of a guy, and it's kind of a rule of thumb for interviewers, especially this day and age when wrestlers are not as big as they used to be. You usually do not want to have the backstage interviewer looking larger than the wrestler.
Well, I think Conrad, even with his size, would be an excellent choice for that. And
I'm not saying. Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he doesn't have the talent to do it.
I'm not getting you wrong.
Certainly has the talent. But no, I just don't see. I also think he's beyond that level. Conrad, I think, is going to be involved more. I could see him being involved more with, for instance, Starrcast 2.
That's his baby, of course.
Yeah, more of that stuff. More of the. I could see him being brought out from a pre-show broadcasting type of setting or something like you had mentioned before. But I just don't see the backstage interview thing. I think what they're going to want there is somebody more of a 5'8", good-looking guy, nice head of hair. Maybe he has a podcast.
There goes my.
Maybe has a podcast with a legendary journalist in
welcome
wrestling.
To I'm Putting Me Over right here on the After Chat.
No, in all seriousness, this is it's going to be very exciting to see who they do come up with for their entire team, because we all know that it takes an entire team to put together a great wrestling broadcast, and they've already begun announcing some of the wrestlers. They also began announcing a backstage producer, the first backstage producer that they announced. Did you see that?
Of course I did. Billy Gunn.
Gunn.
What a great choice, because not only was he for a time directing everything at the Performance Center, but as well as I've known him, I've seen younger guys and even his peers come to him for advice. He's a consummate professional. Great choice.
Yeah, and he was also, as you could see in the video that they had posted, he was there with his son Austin, who is a great kid who's he looks like his dad in the ring. He moves just like Billy Gunn.
We saw him at All In.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would venture to guess here that Austin Gunn is going to, at the very least, have an opportunity to earn a spot with All Elite Wrestling. And it would be a great get for them. So
Yeah. So let me go back to my notes here.
Please.
So one of the things that Cody and the Young Bucks mentioned is that with a lot of companies, the performers, the wrestlers, are the least paid people for what they do. And he said that's going by the wayside now. And
Yeah.
also, Brandy came out later, and she had mentioned that the women's division, she's the chief brand officer, but they're calling her the chief brandy officer, which I love, by the way. But she said that the women in this company will get paid equally with the men.
Yeah.
So that's great.
That is great. And it remains to be seen how something like that plays out, because, I think the way I took that was that it's going to be based on your talent, based on your contribution, not based on your gender. And, obviously I'm sure there are going to be some, Britt Baker is not going to be making the same amount of money as Chris Jericho. And that's not because she's a woman. That's because...
Oh, you blew a surprise there in case somebody didn't watch this. Okay,
well,
go
in
ahead.
case they didn't watch it, then why have they okay? So Chris Jericho is a part of
We'll come back to that. I want to talk about that separately.
Okay.
But I think that Brandy and Cody, with their years in the other major company, witnessed firsthand what people might have been bitching and moaning about backstage.
Yeah.
And they took that to AEW, and they're trying to, and again, we don't know what goes on backstage at the other companies, and they were in two or three different companies, but they want to do what they see is proper for the wrestlers, not the performers.
Right. And I think that that's a really good thing. I think without the wrestlers, you don't have anything. And it's not to minimize the contributions of anybody else, but these people are the ones putting their lives on the line and sacrificing their bodies for the product. And at the very least, they should be treated as more than just, the hired help. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Sure.
So,
sure.
Yeah. So I think that's great. I think it's a great thing. There's been talk about medical expenses, be it, I think they're looking into how they could make something work for health insurance. And a lot of people have kind of misunderstood, I think, what part of the statement was. And I think what they're trying to figure out is how can everybody who's going to be on the roster contribute to the company more so than just being a wrestler. This is at least how I perceive it.
Yeah, you do. You get like a group medical plan with all people putting money in. If you're the people under contract could actually do that. You go to an Aetna or Blue Cross Blue Shield and get a group plan.
Right. So here's the thing. They're independent contractors. So that's what's always been the issue. With independent contractors, the company can choose to not acknowledge them in that way. However, the hope is that each wrestler will be able to contribute something to the company. I'm not talking about to a fund. I'm talking about contribute something to the company that will allow them to become full-time employees of the company.
Oh, right.
So that there is a way for them to be able to get that insurance. But in the meantime, Cody does say that, if somebody's injured in the ring, their medical expenses will be paid for. Subsequent rehab, if necessary, will be paid for. So this is a huge step. And something, and Bill, I want your opinion on this. Something that struck me with that is a lot of people would say, oh, well, how do you get the talent from the WWE? Well, this is a big thing. Not only are they offering better money, and there was a dig in there when Cody said about opportunity. He said that, opportunity doesn't pay the bills. It's long been said that Vince McMahon his thing that he would offer people and still does to this day, is he offers them an opportunity, not a guarantee. And his big thing has always been that he offers them an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So Cody
Yeah,
was making
that's the language, right?
Yeah, so Cody was making a very clear statement there, that opportunity doesn't pay the bills. That these wrestlers need to know that they're going to be, gainfully employed when they're working
Right.
for
Now,
All Elite Wrestling.
keep in mind the issue through the years, even when I was a kid watching wrestling and then when I got in the business, is that most insurance companies turn down people who do things like professional wrestling because they're too much of a risk
Yeah,
factor
I mean,
involved.
yes and no, because I mean, if you think about any athlete, look at the NFL players.
No, I'm putting an asterisk on pro wrestlers because during the 70s,
Well, I
it
think
was
there was
talked about a lot.
Yeah, and I think there was maybe a lack of understanding at that time of what was
Correct.
really happening. So I think
Correct.
now I don't see why, let's say like what would you call it? A stunt man or woman, right? They can go through
Stunt person.
a stunt
Yes.
person. Sure, that was worthwhile. um, a stunt person could they can get their insurance through their union. They can get their insurance through, I don't know if it's SAG-AFTRA or if it's what it is, but I know that they have a way to get health insurance through their union, through what they're connected to. So now I'm the last person who should really be explaining this in detail, but I think basically the option's out there, and I think it's going to happen. I think it's huge if it does happen. And I think that is going to be that could be one of the biggest changes that we see in wrestling from this.
Well, now keep something in mind here. One of your points here was about how they get WWE wrestlers. And this, for example, I think now that you've mentioned about Chris Jericho, and I would have loved to have known how this actually happened because he was very loyal to WWE. I mean, extremely loyal.
Mm-hmm.
But this could have been one of the points when he was sitting down with them is that we're going to change what the general business of pro wrestling sports entertainment is, where not only are we going to give more money to the wrestlers, to the workers, to the performers, but we're also going to set up medical, maybe dental, and maybe other bonuses, and which WWE does give based upon pay-per-views,
for
but other
dental,
things.
I heard that Britt Baker was gonna just take care of the whole
Yes, well,
roster.
that's why they brought her on,
Yeah,
Dr. Baker. But
but
no, I think that I think one of the things with Chris Jericho is that he was probably intrigued by the changes that Cody and the Bucks and Brandy and the other people involved, Hangman Page, everybody that's involved, Daniels and Kazarian and Scorpio, all these people, I believe, feel that the business has to change. They want to be on the forefront, and this is what was sold to them initially by Cody and the Bucks.
And not only Cody and the Bucks, but again, you have to look at who is backing them. These are people with between Cody, the Bucks, and the Khan family. This is
they become an employee of that company, possibly.
Yeah. Cody signed a 5-year contract with All Elite Wrestling, which he said is longer than any contract he's ever signed with a company before, including the WWE.
Well, no one offered him a contract that long because they didn't see what they had in front of them.
Right. Well, one of the things I want to mention is Chris Jericho did say that he said I'm Chris Jericho and I'm all in with All Elite Wrestling, and I believe he also said, I don't have the exact quote here, but something along the lines of, we're not just going to change the world, we're going to change the whole universe, and that was without question, or unquestionably, as someone would say, that
unquestionably,
that could be considered the first shot.
Oh, it was. It definitely was. As soon as I heard that.
So here's something that I wanted to ask, and I know we've got a ton of notes, and we'll come back to it, but I really wanted to talk to you about this. The first thing that people are talking about is the war, right? And AEW, W stands for war, is something
In my
that
opinion,
that
that's
you
what
had
I came
said.
up with. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great, which I thought was a great old school magazine headline right
Headline.
there.
Oh, absolutely. I might have to call Stu Sachs and give him that headline for Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
Yeah, we'll probably just use it on this week's episode of the Apter Chat. But
You already did. We just did.
all right, so yeah, you can't. Well, then they can't go ahead and copy us. Could you imagine
Well,
if someone was to copy something that we did on a very large scale?
I would have to check with my attorneys on
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
that'd be crazy. Anyway, so one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was this everyone's immediately jumping to the war, because everybody wants that. Everybody wants that feeling of the Monday Night Wars back.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, the time feels right for that when you look strictly at the WWE, because their product is, in my opinion and the opinion of a lot of people, even worse than their product was in, say, like 94, 95. Their business is doing better, for sure, especially overseas, but the product is awful and in my opinion, continues to be awful. I've seen nothing of any worth of a change, but that's a conversation for another day, because I think we're focused a little bit more on All Elite Wrestling today. But an interesting thing that I wanted your opinion was, who do you think outside of All Elite Wrestling could benefit the most from what's happening with All Elite Wrestling becoming another major player? And who do you think this is going to hurt the most?
Wait, the typical answer would be, and it sounds so just, oh, come on, Apter, but it's the fans.
Oh, come on, Apter.
Thank you. But that's the real answer. Because during the Monday Night Wars, during the WCW battling with WWE back then, the fans got so much out of that, so much enjoyment, so much fun out of it, so much even just the inside chatter about who's going to win this war,
Mm-hmm.
and who's Bischoff got coming in this week, and who's WWE going to fight them with. Oh man,
yeah. So I think you're right. I think that's a great point. I was thinking more along the lines of from a promotion standpoint, but I think you're right. I think at the end of the day, this is only going to benefit the fans. You mentioned who's Eric Bischoff going to bring in, all that stuff. I'm hoping that we're going to see a lot of that. Now, contracts are a little bit different, so there's going to be a lot more. A guy leaves WWE, it's 90 days until he's allowed to show up somewhere else and all that stuff, and that's fine. But this day and age with social media, I wonder, I don't know the legalities of it, but if a guy's contract runs out and he's not allowed to show up on TV for 90 days, does that mean that day one they can't have an announcement on Twitter that he signed with them? He's allowed to sign. He's just not allowed to show up on television.
Right. Well, then you've answered your own question. Then.
Right. So, well, I don't know. For all I know, it's in their contract that they can't, make anything public. So I don't know.
They may be able to wrestle in All Elite Wrestling as long as it's not shown on any electronic media.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I feel like we will find out sooner than later.
By the way, the other winners here are the performers, the wrestlers, the workers.
Yes.
Because there is now, let's say you get a guy in WWE, a mid-card guy or mid-card to lower guy like Cody was, and they're unhappy.
Yeah. Somewhere to go.
They now have, the WWE office is now going, well, we're not going to renew this guy's contract. Well, he might go over there. Let's see what are they going to do with him? There's a possibility that he could become a soaring star, or she could.
So I'll tell you a story. When I was training to be a wrestler at the Wild Samoan Training Center, I was training there in 2001. And I remember the first class that I went to, I want to say it was the day after. I think it was on a Tuesday. So I think it was the day after the last Nitro. And I walked in to the school, and you would have thought somebody died. The wrestlers, that were all there, everyone who was training, any of the guys from WXW that were, they were indie workers, but they were there to help train us. Everyone was just moping. They were down. And to me, as a still focused purely as a fan, really at that point, I was all like, well, this is kind of cool. Who knows what's going to happen? It could be a WCW invasion and all this stuff. And they were, and so many, they were just like, yeah, but now we have less places to work.
Yeah, less places to work because there was really no second power.
And I remember it hit me, especially at, 5'8". WCW was a place that was the land of the cruiserweights in a lot of ways. If you wanted to make it to one of the big companies as a smaller guy at that time, WCW was where you were looking.
Yes,
and
of course.
That was, so it's been a long time since then. And for, nearly 2 decades later, to finally have this opportunity again for the performers, for the men and the women that are working there, that's huge, because I've seen firsthand how that affects people to have it, to be lesser.
Okay. So I have another point.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I had another question for you, but no, make your point.
No, what's your question? It might be the point.
Well, my other question was, who do you think this is going to hurt the most? And I'm talking strictly.
That's what I was going to talk about.
Okay.
It's exactly what I was going to talk about.
Okay.
So right now, the dream of every indie wrestler out there is, I want a job at AEW. I want to be a member of the elite. So you now have to look at the companies that are very high profile indie, and we start with Ring of Honor, of course. What does Ring of Honor have to do to protect their guys who sat there probably and individually watched this rally yesterday and heard Cody Rhodes say, we're going to pay you more. Wins and losses will count. Yeah, which is really important to a wrestling fan.
That's very interesting.
Really important to a wrestling. I loved hearing that. So what is maybe we'll have medical benefits, our in-house dentist. But what is stopping someone? What is Ring of Honor going to? Because they're really that next level is Ring of Honor, because New Japan is not a United States-based regular running company like Ring of Honor is. Ring of Honor runs regularly. Am I missing a company here that runs regularly?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you look at Impact Wrestling. Because
we're going to talk about them.
They'll do chunks of TV tapings, and they're more or less, I believe their house show schedule is more or less, their guys are working a lot of indies and stuff. So I'm not.
Yeah, so they're not running their own house shows.
I don't believe so.
Right. So that doesn't. No, their guys are on indie shows.
Yes.
They're being booked out on indie shows. So Impact Wrestling doesn't have the touring facet that Ring of Honor has. Correct?
Correct.
Ring of Honor tours a lot more. So if I'm Ring of Honor now, is how do I protect my guys from being sucked into this new company that's offering all this stuff? And these guys worked for me before, so they're all friends with Cody and the Bucks.
Right. So I think that something like Marty Scurll, I think is when his contract's up, I would bet anything that he's going to All Elite Wrestling. Yes. And I'm sure Ring of Honor is well aware of that. But I think, and I'm going to kind of, on what you're saying here, I think Impact Wrestling should be more concerned than Ring of Honor, and here's why. And this is in no way meant to knock Impact Wrestling or anything that they're doing, but I'm looking at this from what I think could potentially happen. Ring of Honor has a reputation from day one of being this great independent wrestling company, and being kind of the number 3, if you will. Like, there's no number 2 spot, but there's number 3, and that's Ring of Honor.
Correct.
Ring of Honor, I don't think it ever really stopped being that. I think it continued to churn out the new up and coming talent in wrestling. So I think Ring of Honor, if anything, is maybe a little safer because it's kind of seen as more along the lines of like a potential feeder system to whoever's higher up. So I think that some fans will kind of, they'll still want to be, they're still so connected to Ring of Honor and everything that it is. That brings me to Impact Wrestling.
Well, wait. Before you talk about Impact Wrestling now, Ring of Honor also does have one other door that has been open to them now.
New Japan.
And that's the National Wrestling Alliance.
National Wrestling Alliance, also their connection with New Japan Pro Wrestling, which will not be connected to All Elite Wrestling.
Correct.
So
again,
that's a big thing
again,
too.
will Ring of Honor's touring shows now start to include more NWA talent? Because the NWA is only doing these pop-up shows.
So
currently.
I don't know that there's really NWA talent as much as there is the NWA utilizing Ring of Honor talent.
It's the champion. It's Nick Aldis.
But I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be a lot more New Japan Pro Wrestling because that's the thing that's going to keep them in business. And I think that things are looking up for Ring of Honor with that show at Madison Square Garden. So I wouldn't count them out yet. I think they're still making waves and doing something really special. Now, Impact Wrestling,
wait. I hate to cut in here, but it's just
SoSaysShernoff.com. You can go and you can buy the Josh Interrupted shirt.
I just want to mention when you're talking about Ring of Honor, New Japan, do you think that there was a percentage of the fans who helped sell out Madison Square Garden so quickly for their show on WrestleMania weekend because they thought that the Elite was going to be on that show?
Yes, I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, even we weren't sure what was going to happen when we gave the award for Wrestler of the Year to Cody, and we gave the award for Wrestler of the Year to the Bucks. It was something, without getting into too many details, we kind of had the idea that they may not be staying with Ring of Honor, which is why those were pre-recorded videos. And when we gave to the Ring of Honor commentators, we gave them live on stage at a Ring of Honor event because it was pretty much understood that, that's not really an award that we can give to them right now on a Ring of Honor show since they're going to be leaving. And that was something that, was understood, but we didn't know for a fact even. So even us with knowing all of that, still we're not 100% sure that they were going to be leaving. So I think just a random fan of theirs was probably like, let me grab those tickets. I need those tickets because, the Elite's going to be there. So
What if? And we're going to get back to your Impact Wrestling. But while we're on this train of thought, what if the one person who everybody's wondering what's going to happen, what if Kenny Omega shows up at Madison Square Garden?
I think that would be huge for Ring of Honor.
Nobody's thought of this, but even though his commitment is up very shortly with New Japan,
I think that would be
thinking that maybe he's going to. Did he ever say he's not renewing with them? Yes, there's
yes.
title change, but
he did say that he was leaving New Japan.
Right,
but
not,
he could be leaving New Japan for Ring of Honor.
No, but he's saying he was leaving. He's pretty much leaving wrestling for a while.
Yeah, whatever.
Well,
I don't know if that's
a while could be April.
Right.
Nobody's thought of this.
But back to no, that's a great point. Back to Impact though. If my derailed train can get back on the tracks here. I think that the issue with Impact Wrestling, Bill, is that how can I put it? They have maybe too much history behind them, because when you can look at that company and know how high they were once upon a time, think 2006 when Kurt Angle was showing up, when you had Sting and Booker T and Kevin Nash, and when you looked at that, Christian was there. That And of course, not to mention AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Bobby Roode and Eric Young, who would go on to the WWE. But when you looked at where that company was, where at a time people were like, this is the number 2 company. Yeah, it's not as neck and neck as WCW was, but TNA is the number 2 company. Well, right now, you could argue that Ring of Honor is above Impact Wrestling. We just talked about their touring schedule and whatnot. So, that kind of creates a worry for Impact, because if everybody kept looking at Impact Wrestling as the, maybe it'll come back, because that's always been the thing. It's not maybe they'll succeed. It's always maybe they'll come back. Maybe they'll go back to being what they were when TNA was at its height. And now I feel like people are going to be like, it doesn't really matter. We don't need to know if Impact's going to come back because we've got AEW now.
So speaking about Impact Wrestling, I think that AEW will have an effect on them as well, mainly because, AEW at this point, they haven't announced any TV deal. Impact Wrestling has a TV deal with Anthem Entertainment's own Pursuit
and Twitch
channel. Yes,
they're
and
now,
Twitch,
which is great. They have a great tagline now, which is, if you have the internet, you have impact. And I think that that's really, really good.
So now there could be a war brewing for, as there was on TV with WWE and WCW, the streaming wars could really strike it off with AEW and Impact being on this streaming platform.
Well, that's assuming that AEW will be streaming. I'm sure that they're going to be having their pay-per-views on Fight. Obviously, All In was on that, and that seems to be where wrestling and MMA is headed as far as pay-per-view broadcasts. But no, I just I don't know. This is something I've been thinking about a lot. I don't think in any way, shape, or form this is a negative.
Not at all. No,
challenge.
Not at all. I agree.
A challenge, yes, for some other promotions, but it's not a negative. It should do. Everybody is focused on how this is going to make the WWE step up, and man, I hope it does. But I also hope that it makes Impact Wrestling step up. And that's not to say that they're not trying, but I hope that it makes them get even more creative than they've already been. Same with Ring of Honor. I hope that this just fuels the wrestling business. But I do want to talk for a minute about how this affects the WWE. Because
I wanted to bring that up as well, because we were talking about them upping their game. And the thing that Daniel Bryan did Monday night, I thought was great. And he was talking about changing the world one fan at a time. And you had tipped me off to this, and I didn't realize this. And some fans actually took video of them being told they couldn't come into the SmackDown building, which was just a few miles away from where the rally was, wearing AEW T-shirts.
Right.
So it's already started to affect WWE, even in that small attendance.
And that's a great, that's a great point that the WWE, maybe they were showing their hand a bit. There was a comment from one of the commentators that you caught, that someone said something about the WWE wrestlers being, elite athletes or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
And to me, I had said to you, this is just them showing their hand. Like, I wouldn't do that if I were them, because these are the all elite. That's the cool thing right now in wrestling. So their best bet is to just mind their own business and make their own product better, not try to take little jabs.
That's what they always did up until they started getting worried about WCW, and they put on the Billionaire Ted skits. Right,
and that didn't work for them. What worked for them was when they decided to turn around and create the Attitude Era. But they need to focus on themselves, and they need to focus on how they can continue to change their product. Because, if you look at it, how can I put this? People are going to say, and you've said this on the show before, when we've talked about, they had 1.7 million viewers or something. And you would say, yeah, but that's 1.7 million. But if you look at a year earlier and they had 2.7, and I know that's not the exact numbers or whatever, but I'm making a point here. Who is to say that they could not lose the same amount they lost in a year? Who's to say that they couldn't lose that many viewers next year? So
that's absolutely correct.
They need to get their act together because they could find themselves in a really, really bad situation. And I don't know what the deal is with Fox, but I also know that Fox it probably has it in there that they could cancel them. They're not going to allow this programming to be this prime programming if they start looking at it going, wow, we don't have any viewers for this.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think the WWE is they're a huge, use the word entertainment, programming company, and I think they'll be able to change their programming. I think in a lot of ways people are ignoring what they are stepping up. And for example, did you see the three-way match with Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and
Asuka?
Yes, yeah. Not Asuka. To determine who's going to wrestle Asuka.
Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks, yes. That was, when you talk about stepping up, it seems to me it's very unusual, and I'm glad we're talking about this, is that the women's division is sparking even more interest and harder work than the guys at this point. Do you agree?
I kind of do agree that there's more interest for that. But I don't know that. See, I watch the show and I look at it and I think SmackDown is far superior to Raw in the creativity behind it. But I look at it and I constantly feel like the WWE just isn't getting it. You know, I constantly feel like it would be like, oh, they were so close to changing something, but then they stuck with this stupid thing. And it's
but
not
they said
always...
they were going to change, remember? 3 weeks ago?
But they haven't.
Everything was going to change?
And they haven't changed a thing.
Show me the beef.
Yeah, they haven't changed a thing. And, I'm hoping that All Elite Wrestling is going to be the catalyst for change for the WWE. I'm hoping that they're going to change a lot of what they do behind the scenes.
Let me ask you a question about All Elite. Then. Yes. All right. I want so do you think that Brandy being the in her position was the chief brand officer is a shot directly at Stephanie McMahon?
No, I think Brandy's qualified.
No. What I'm saying is, do you think that they created that as a shot at Stephanie McMahon? That
you're saying this using that specific title as opposed to
correct.
I think it's possible. I think they may have just kind of found it funny, like, hey, let's just do that. I don't think it was like
it's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, we don't have to do it to screw them over. I think it was enough just that, like, I could see them just laughing about it, just driving in a car and going, "Hey, wouldn't it be funny if we called her this?"
Exactly what I thought.
But I think her actual job description and what she's going to be doing, I think no matter what they called it would be the same, and I think she's incredibly qualified for it, and I'm very excited. I think she's great, and I know you feel the same way.
Yeah, she's a very classy lady.
Yeah, she's a really, really nice person, hardworking person, and I just, on a personal level with the Bucks and with Cody and with Brandy, I could not be happier for them. Cody, I've never been, I don't want this to sound like, Cody's a buddy of mine. He's not. But Cody is, from when I first met him down in OVW to the last time I saw him at the Ring of Honor show, he has never been anything but friendly and just gone out of his way to be welcoming to me whenever I've seen him. And
he's watched his dad through the years, and he had the best model in the entire world of who to follow.
Yeah, and I just think for someone like him, he is a guy who is putting in the work. You mentioned a guy like Conrad Thompson earlier. That is a guy who puts in the work. And I think that at the end of the day, that is what is allowing something like this to happen, because you have people like Cody, people like the Bucks, Brandy, who are not afraid to, I guess, pun intended, go all in. And they prove that. And that's what brought the Khan family to them after All In. Was, I think the Khan family had probably been tossing around this idea of getting into wrestling for a while, keeping an eye on things, and then to watch what these guys did with their own money and what they were able to put on. And, you know, it just, I think that's when they looked and they said, these are our guys. These are our guys who are going to do it.
Yeah.
But one.
Now, what, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What did, were you surprised to see the former Neville, Pac, come out and challenge, well, not challenge, but go head to head with Hangman Page regarding the initial championship?
I don't know that I was so surprised as I was pleased by it and excited by it.
Me too.
But I think it's just great. I think Neville is, you know, you talked about Cody. You talked about other people like Cody from the WWE who are maybe that mid-level or below, who felt like there was nothing they could, you know, like nothing they could do to get further along. Neville is a guy who was not happy in the WWE. I don't know if it was creative. I don't know if it was backstage. I don't know if it was the travel.
It was creative.
It was
creative.
Well,
it was creative. I know that.
Okay. Well, he hasn't told me that, so I didn't want to pontificate on that. But let's say it was creative.
Why would he tell you?
Did he tell you?
Yes.
He did.
He told a lot of people.
Did he tell you personally?
He made it public.
That it was the creative.
That it was, had nothing. They couldn't find any real niche for him.
Okay.
And that creates an air.
And you felt like he was talking directly to you when he made this public?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
What I'm saying is, he made a public statement, but
I don't discuss what I talk to wrestlers personally about, but let's say that from the horse's mouth, as to put it, without revealing my friendly discussion off the record with him, it was creative.
Okay. Again, I'll stand by what I said, which is whatever is publicly put out there. And if I don't know who the source is, I'm not going to assume something. Sure. So I'm trying to, but I'm glad that you're having these clandestine conversations, and it's good. You know, it's good to know. But no, you're obviously you're having these conversations that I'm not having, and that was the point that I was trying to make, was that I don't know every aspect of it, and you know, of why he wanted to leave. But regardless, he left, and he left before there was an AEW to go to. So this is a guy who took a chance on himself, and I'm sure someone like Cody saw that and said, you know what, this is a guy that we need. And I was very pleased to see that. I think Neville unplugged, if you will, you know, Pac, I think has all the, not a huge fan of the name.
He's great.
But he's amazing. Great. And I think that he has all the potential in the world outside of the WWE.
You know what? And I don't know this for a fact, but I will bet you when Cody left WWE that he tapped a couple of guys on the side or on the back and said, I'm going to get some gig going. If it starts to run, I'm going to call you.
I don't know. I don't know if
that's how it works. You know, that's how it works in the business.
Yeah, I don't know if it was when he was leaving, but I'm sure he's got his friends. I'm sure he's.
Now, did you notice? And this is something that I'm the only one who is talking about. These other people that were at the rally that I was really glad to see.
Who is that?
Do you know that the old ECW security force, Ronnie and the rest of Atlas Security, were manning that rally yesterday?
Well, I don't think you're the only one who's talking about this. Cody actually released a statement on them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Where was that?
There was an interview that he did with one of the press that was there. But no, it was just, he said he wasn't sure what to expect with All In, with Atlas Security, that they had come, highly recommended, but he wasn't really sure. Yeah. And basically, in a nutshell, he was incredibly impressed with them. So, they're great. I loved being able to spend time at StarCast with them, and also got to see them again at the ECW Arena.
Oh yeah, I mean
Um,
I've seen them forever, and they're
yeah,
really good guys too.
yeah.
But don't mess with them.
No,
Don't
God,
mess with them.
I wouldn't want to. But no. So one thing that I wanted to touch base on before we wrap it up here is Chris Jericho, and he
Chris
is
Jericho, baby.
he has been removed from the WWE's opening signature, and
The montage.
the montage there, and he was moved to the alumni. So a lot of question
I'm surprised
is,
they even left him on the alumni.
yeah, they put everyone on the alumni because it's their way of getting themselves over. Even if somebody's left, they can kind of show like, oh, they were here first. But but no, I think Chris Jericho being a part of this is that's the cherry on top.
And he's going to be office. I can guarantee you that with his mind, he's going to be booking angles. He's going to be doing everything. He's going to be a main force in the driving of that company.
I mean, even if it's not, in his contract to be creative, there's no way that guy's not going to be contributing to creative.
He's
So
going to
yeah,
be
I agree.
Or he's going to be doing. I will bet you, and again, I've never seen the contract, that he has agreed to do everything to help these people.
Well, he said that he was all in, and that's a funny turn of phrase now with this company, but he's truly invested in them. He's signed to them, and I know that he will still be able to do his Chris Jericho cruise, but I don't know if there's no working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling. However, he's Chris Jericho. So just like how he was still appearing for the WWE and doing
It's
New
like
Japan
Tommy
and stuff.
Dreamer. He
Oh
goes
God,
everywhere.
Tommy Dreamer is absolutely everywhere.
Now-
And what a perfect time for me to plug Modern Vintage Wrestling's
before you plug
show.
something,
Well,
before you plug anything,
Okay, so now it's not going to be.
the most important part here we have not talked about.
Okay.
They have announced that they are running their first official show on May 25th at the MGM Grand Garden Arena Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. And also StarCast will be part of that event.
Yes, StarCast 2. That's going to be incredible. I will be there.
Now, what did you want to plug?
Oh, may I?
Please do. You're so polite. Goes against your sarcasm.
Yeah. So, okay, what am I going to plug? You mentioned sarcasm. I'm going to plug my Pro Wrestling Tees page, prowrestlingtees.com/so says Shernoff. Sarcasm is my superpower. You can get that t-shirt in gold and in blue. The logo, not the t-shirt. T-shirt's black. But one of the things I wanted to plug, you mentioned Tommy Dreamer, and he will be, I believe, will be a part of, maybe I'm telling tales out of school here, but I believe Tommy Dreamer will be a part of the Bruiser Brody Cup, which will be presented by Modern Vintage Wrestling. It is the culmination of a tournament. It's going to be a huge night taking place this month. It will be on January 25th, and it will be live on Fight TV. So check that out. You can go to Fight TV and you can.
And you're going to be part of
that.
the broadcast team.
Yeah, I'm going to be a part of that, and very, very excited to be a part of that.
Well, I do want to mention that I might be at that show. There's a possibility. I will be at Awesome Wrestling Entertainment in Waynesboro, Virginia on February 23rd. Mick Foley is the headliner of that show.
Cool. That'll be really good.
Yeah. Go to Awesome Wrestling Entertainment's Facebook page and find out more about it. I will be hosting that show. And Josh, I understand that you have a major announcement to make.
I do. And I put out on social media that my major announcement would be made on Friday. And Friday around noon, I'm going to make this major announcement on social media. But I thought for our After Chatters who have supported me for the past 23 episodes, along with supporting you, of course, but I thought that as a thank you for all of the love and support that I have been shown by the After Chatters, that I would make the announcement on the show so that if you are a true After Chatter and listening to this before noon on Friday, you will be the first to know. My show, So Says Shernoff, has been picked up by the Fight TV network and will be streaming on a monthly basis starting January 24th. It will be streaming, and I could not be more excited to be a part of the Fight family. Very much looking forward to this. Honored that they want my content on their platform. But yeah, very, very excited about that. And yeah, it's gonna be exciting. Got some really exciting things. And that with that, I can say that when I mentioned that I will be in Las Vegas, will be there for StarCast. I don't know exactly how I will be there, but at the very least, I will be doing some stuff related to So Says Shernoff, my show on Fight TV.
And also, we do have to mention that wonderful Willie and So Says Shernoff will be at WrestleCon on WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah, we will be there at WrestleCon. We will have a booth. I actually just got the background, our banner they just sent to me for approval from WrestleCon. So yeah,
you need to send that to me ASAP. So
I will.
Our whole committee can approve it, and I will, by the way, have copies of my book. Is Wrestling Fixed?
I didn't know it was broken.
Yeah, I'll have copies of my book to sign there. And if you already have a copy of my book and you want to get it signed there, bring it with you. It's a perfect opportunity, and we'll have some other gimmicks there as well that are in support of the Apter Chat.
Yes, it's going to be a very exciting time there. We're very much looking forward to.
You've said so much. You've used the word exciting so many times. People are going to get overly excited.
Well, then they're going to have to come back next week and listen to our sponsor.
By the way, this week we wanted to mention that this show was dedicated to Mean Gene Okerlund and brought to you by Smart Hold. And Josh, can you tell them a bit about Smart Hold in case they haven't heard in the past 22 weeks?
Absolutely. Smart Hold is a message on hold service for only $35 per month. That's right, only $35 per month. Plus, and this is the best part, Bill, there are no contracts. So let's recap that for a second. Smart Hold message on hold service, only $35 per month with no contracts. If you run a business where you place your callers on hold, one of your most effective and least expensive marketing tools is message on hold from Smart Hold. I don't think a lot of people realize that when you have your caller on hold, you have a captive audience. Replace the radio stations and CD players, which, by the way, is illegal. Or maybe you have some really bad music that came with the phone, or even worse, as we've been talking about, silence. With today's cell phones, placing a caller on hold to silence is deadly. Most callers won't be sure if they're still on hold, if they're still connected.
That's right.
They'll probably just hang up like you do or I do. Can you afford to lose that call, Bill?
No, absolutely not.
I couldn't afford to lose that call in my business, and that's why with Smart Hold, we make your caller's hold time more enjoyable and informative while the caller's hold time feels shorter. It also makes you sound more professional because with Smart Hold, you get pro voice talent, both male and female, unlimited message changes, professional script writers, broadcast quality audio, fresh background music, music licensing fees, and even a Smart Hold player should you need one at no charge. All for only $35 per month per location served and no contracts. So go to www.smart-hold.com and order today. That's www.smart-hold.com. Be smart, get Smart Hold.
So, Josh, I have to get out of Apter's Alley right now. And do you know why?
I'm nervous to know.
I have to take Lexi, the Wonder Poodle, out. She hasn't been out for several hours, and she was circling on the Apter's Alley pee-pee pad area. So I got to get out of here. So you know what? Why don't you tell everybody where they can find both of us on social media, and I'll see you and everybody else at the matches, okay?
Sure. Yeah, I don't think I can top that story you just told. But all right. You can find us on social media, Twitter at the Apter Chat. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/the Apter Chat. Go to theapterchat.com for our podcast, for the merch, where it'll take you right over to Pro Wrestling Tees, and you can check out all of our merchandise there, including the Respect the Comb Over shirt. You can also click on the book and go to Is Wrestling Fixed? I Didn't Know It Was Broken book by Bill Apter. I mentioned before, you can go to SoSaysShernoff.com and you can get a couple of shirts there with a link to my Pro Wrestling Tees page. You can find me at SoSaysShernoff. You can find him at Apter1 Wrestling. And I think Bill really he left. So I'm all alone again. Yeah. Bye.